All right. I'm hoping that we're back. Let's see. Let me get into let's see what's happening in the chat. I apologize for that. This, again, it's a brand new studio that we've built out here. We're awaiting some pieces, some things that we're going to hopefully make the much more smooth offering. We'll see about that. Where I was, and I to have, there we go, show. Okay. Okay. I've lost the chat room, so let me just go over. No, this is a problem. You can all listen to me hum here on your lunch break, or whatever it is. Oh, here. You know what? Okay. I think I've at least now got a way that whoa, that's not going to work. There we go. Okay, good. Thank you, folks. Was getting a little bit concerned because I wasn't. We're again. I can't say this enough. I'm learning on the fly here. And look, here's the upside. We've got the absolute best people that you could want working on this behind the scenes. So we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. All right, back to the story here that we were talking about. Trending. LSU announces that Tiger Stadium is going to require proof of vaccinations or a negative COVID-19 test for entry. Baton Rouge. See, I just did. If you were listening last night, I just pronounced it incorrectly. Baton Rouge, Louisiana is how we say it in the English language. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Louisiana State University announced that proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test is required for all Tiger Stadium guests, 12 years and older for entry. This announcement comes due to the ongoing surge of COVID-19 in Louisiana. Now, here is what LSU themselves, if you go Tigers, if you're one of them, this is what your school says. With the significant threat presented by COVID-19 across the state of Louisiana due to the highly transmissible Delta variant, LSU will require all Tiger Stadium guests 12 years of age and older to provide proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test, taken within 72 hours. The decision comes after consultation with and support from Governor John Bel Edwards. I don't know if he's popular. I don't know what his deal is down there. I can't imagine that any governor in any state is popular right now. Now, other than DeSantis, and it's not that he's popular down there in Florida. I just saw a thing here earlier when I was looking at the news stories of the day. 51% of Floridians, or do you call them Floridians? 51% of Floridians have said, 51%, this is one more than half, 51% of Floridians, they believe that DeSantis might be, putting his political ambitions ahead of what's really in the best interest of the people of his state. 51%. That's 49% of people in the state of Florida can't seem to spot a con. Can't seem to spot when a guy is obviously, he's been governor for a couple of years now, and he's He wants to be president. I think we know that. He wants to be president, and he's leaning into, the Trump whole thing. And, that's fine. It's going to work for a lot of people. But I don't know. I don't know that is it Ron DeSantis? I don't know that DeSantis down there in Florida has really done enough to cross enough bridges, to shake enough hands, to really win a nomination. He's not Donald Trump. Donald Trump was a television star. Donald Trump was a guy that a lot of people liked. He wasn't necessarily, he wasn't, well, maybe he was. And I don't want to go into this anyway. But so LSU is now going to require people to have a vaccination or get themselves a COVID test within 72 hours that said that they're completely clean of it. This stuff. I picked LSU because it's right next door to us. But honestly, there's about 15 different things that are trending here. From Disney. Did you hear about Disney? Disney's now going to require vaccinations. This is really difficult, and this is why I'm kind of glad that I'm not in a position where I got to make these kind of choices for people. Look, I don't know. I don't know what to say. All I know is that this thing isn't going away, and it's going to be harder and harder incrementally. I mean, it's happening piece by piece. It's going to be harder and harder for people who think that spoons stick to them to be able to go anywhere in this country. I've never really been a big fan of, the idea of let the corporate world lead. I've always felt that was a bit sketchy and potentially very troubling. But in this regard, I seem to be impressed every day with a different company that is doing these things for what is the greater good of all of us, for the greater good of society. Whether again, this is so divisive. I'm vaxxed. I've been vaxxed. I'll get the third booster. I don't really think that people understand how these things work. Just because you're vaccinated doesn't mean that you can't get COVID. It doesn't mean that you can't test positive and have to isolate and do all that stuff. All it means is when it hits you, it's not gonna kill you, probably. I'm sure there's one off, and there'll be a bunch of guys screaming on the Facebook page about, well, what about this example? Millions and millions and millions of people have been vaccinated. The percentage that have died has been, can you even calculate it? The percentage of breakthrough cases. And here was the thing. I saw somebody on Facebook saying that 125,000 cases aren't breakthroughs. That's just what happens. And I was like, no, you're being incredibly disingenuous with that. 125 cases of people who were vaccinated who have now tested positive for COVID is a big deal. That should be concerning to anybody until you learn that millions and millions and millions of people have been vaccinated. Then that 125,000 people number, it's actually pretty silly. It's 0.08%. 0.08% of people who have been vaccinated to this point, according to the CDC, have had what are being called breakthrough cases. And a lot of those people are people who are in very high risk public positions where their job is to, he's a professional handshaker who's vaccinated is probably more likely to contract this breakthrough COVID than somebody who is still being safe. But the best example that I've heard of it is it's a seatbelt, right? I mean, that's all the vaccination is. It's a seatbelt. You are hurling down the expressway and you slam into a brick wall. If you're not, you're still going to the hospital, right? Seatbelt or no, you're going to the hospital, but they're not declaring you dead in a couple of hours, right? You're wearing your seatbelt. It's probably going to save your life. Yes, you were in an accident. Yes, you got jacked up pretty bad, but you're not dead. And if the guy that wasn't wearing the seatbelt, he was thrown through the windshield and he was torn in pieces and he's laying all over the road. That's the unvaccinated guy. The guy that's vaccinated was wearing his seatbelt. People say it's a choice, it's a freedom. Okay, maybe it is, but at some point, the rest of us would like to try and get back to normal society. And I don't hate you if you have a different opinion on this. I hope to God that you don't hate me. This is how we need to tamp this down. We need to be able to talk about this stuff. I need to know why you believe what you believe. And then I need you to be open-minded when I tell you it's all complete bullshit. When I tell you this guy on YouTube was just mining for clicks. When I tell you that the subreddit that you read about this is absolute bullshit being put out there by trolls. You got to listen to doctors here, and you got to look at, again, this goes back to my thing when I was ranting about institutions. We have no faith or love in our institutions anymore, and that ultimately, folks, is going to be our downfall. All right, so LSU is doing that. Disney is now doing it. There's a number. What's going to happen here now? This is being openly discussed. Trains, Amtrak, and airlines, a number of airlines are up. I bet it's going to be in a day or two. I mean, we're back to the point now where 1,000 people are dying a day. We are back to peak COVID. And it may not seem like that because we have all to some degree sort of fallen back into a routine, and it's not as shocking as maybe it was in the early years or the early years at this point. At this point in the early years of the pandemic, it was all shocking because it was such a shift in what we did with our everyday life. And now we've all sort of, fallen into our routines. People who have been working from home, a lot of them are now choosing to work from home. They're like, hey, this is better. A lot of companies are seeing that. So maybe we're not as stunned by the 1,000 dead every day number, and maybe we're okay with it. I'm certainly not. 1,000 Americans are dying every day of a disease. If 1,000 Americans died every day in a war, we'd be screaming to pull out of this war. But this we seem to look at differently. We seem to look at this like, okay, well, as long as it's not me or anybody that I love. This is where empathy comes in. This is where a desire to do. Now, I'm not a Christian. I was raised Catholic, and I'm probably best described as being an agnostic. I am a searcher. I'm open-minded to whatever is out there, and I think that the entire purpose of life is that you have experiences, and those experiences give you information about what the world actually means to you. My issue with a lot of religions, and this certainly isn't just Christianity. It has Judaism. It has anything. Joining a gang. It's very much joining a gang and indoctrinating people when they don't have a choice. There are people in my life who I love dearly. There are people in my life who I care immensely about, who are very faithful people, who are very religious. I have friends who are Jews. I have friends who are Christians. I have friends who are Islam. I will never begrudge a man his faith. I will never begrudge a woman her faith. This world is difficult. And if that gives you some peace, if that gives you some way of navigating all of this bullshit that we put up with, man, good on you. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's not what you need. But my issue was always, I was raised Catholic, and I was told what it was. I was told, this is how it is. This is what's up with this. This is why you're the only one that's going to heaven, and everybody else on the planet is going. I was taught that. I was taught that because I'm Catholic, that I'm the right religion. Everybody else, even other Christians, all other forms of Christianity, those people, they are heretics. And at some point, I don't know, maybe I was, because I would have actively called myself a Christian probably into my 20s. But then at some point, I just kind of went, man, you know what? I never really thought about that myself. I never really considered that. What if I just wiped all of that stuff, all of the indoctrination? What if I just forgot all of that and looked at it objectively? Do I believe any of this? Or is it just a simple fact that this is all I've been told since I was, 2 years old, 1 year old, whatever it is? I made the comparison to Santa Claus. It was like when I was little, all of these things were drummed into my head, and one by one, the ridiculous ones fell away. I was told that we were just kidding you about Santa Claus, and I was like, what? I mean, I believed that. That is something that I was told, and I believed. but that doesn't happen with your religious faiths. And I just got to a point where myself, I decided that I would probably declare, I'll declare what I am on my deathbed. And, there's a good chance that might be atheist. I don't believe there are no atheists in foxholes. Oh, yeah, there are. Oh, yes, there are. When the shit's hitting the fan, I promise you, I am not going to stop and pray. I may do a number of other things. I may lose control of my bowels. I may run away from whatever is happening and be killed instantly because of my fear. But yeah, I couldn't imagine a situation where I would just drop and pray, because, and I guess I don't want to really get into this, but I think it's important to if I'm going to be sitting here spouting off things, people should know exactly where it is that I'm coming from, because it's never from a place of judgment, and it's not going to be from a place of malice or hate. I just have to come from the place that I am, which is, my life experiences. I am fascinated by religions. But back to the virus thing. If your religion is, when the religion begins to cross into non-religious things, like when you're believing what your pastor in the $5,000 suit who drives the fancy car with the 10-car garage has access to a Learjet, when you're believing what that guy is telling you on Sunday on your TV screen, or maybe you go to one of these mega things or whatever, if you're believing what that guy is telling you, and not what some French doctor in Paris who has dedicated his life to the study of microbiology and, pandemic research. I mean, you need to just take a break, man. I love y'all. Take a break on that one and really think it through. Really think, who is the guy that has the real information? So we're just not doing that. And what's going to end up happening here with this virus, whether you're vaccinated or not, is that you're just going to be limited more and more. You can't go to LSU games, Amtrak and the airlines, as I was saying, they're very seriously considering, and I would expect in the next couple of days to hear that Amtrak is going to say you must be vaccinated to ride the train. The airlines are going to say you must be vaccinated to not ride the train, or to ride the planes. I got hit up. I used to fly Southwest pretty regularly. And I got hit up. It said something like $49 fares, or, Southwest sends out those blasts. And I had the idea, I thought, instead of causing the problem that is inevitably going to occur when people can't fly because they're not vaccinated. Oh, and there's going to be problems. There's going to be pushing. There's going to be shoving. There's going to be all kinds of insanity. Somebody's going to pull a gun out. People are going to die. It's going to be incredibly sad for us as a society. Before all that happens, all right, so maybe how about you let the unvaccinated people fly? But what if you let vaccinated people fly for like $10 and unvaccinated people have to pay 3, 4, 5 times what the average ticket price is? Yeah, don't ban them, but just say, look, if you want to stay unvaccinated, you know what you're going to find? You're going to find that the only unvaccinated people who fly are going to be educated, wealthy people, because educated, wealthy people are vaccinated. That's just a fact. The people who are being duped into this whole don't get vax thing are being led astray. Yeah, everyone at Fox News is vaccinated, and yet they go on the air and talk about, should you really be vaccinated? They're all vaccinated. All of these Republican, conservative, MAGA-aligned politicians, they're all vaccinated. That's why none of them are dying. They're getting sick. They're quarantining. They're having a cough for a couple of days. And hey, nothing, no big deal. The former president at his rally in Alabama told his people, the people who adore him, he's a rock star to this group. He told them, get vaccinated. And they immediately booed. And his reaction, remember now, he comes from a sales background. So, never let the deal fall off the table. Their immediate reaction, which was boo, caused him to go from, you need to get vaccinated, to, whoa, yeah, whatever you want to do. I mean, that's not leadership. That's not what we need now. This is not about politics. This is about a friend of mine who is pulling their children out of school because 20 other kids in the class have COVID. This is here in Texas. This is about me every day worrying about my own kid who's going to school here in Texas, it's no longer about us. It's about our kids. The needle barely moved a click when it was killing off all our grandparents. But now, this thing is mutated now and it's affecting children. This is really one of the main purposes that I wanted to do this show, because I wanted to talk to people without screaming. I wanted to talk to people without judgment about all of this. But yeah, okay, so let's look at the chat room here. Janet, by the way, you can hit up any of the, here, I'll fix this because we had some problems earlier in the show. And what do I want to do? Yeah, we'll show you all how you can, you guys, I'm going to get so good at this. It's going to be so smooth. You just wait. Like 2 weeks from now, you won't even know. I'm going to get good. I promise. Jennifer says, I've been vaccinated since March. I have continued to mask, but have returned to shopping over curbside. But in past 2 weeks, so many of my vaxxed friends have either gotten COVID or had to quarantine. I work from home, so it's easy for me to do, but I started a 3-week self-imposed lockdown. I will reevaluate it then. We are just starting to see the increase. It'll get worse. That's the other thing. You're vaccinated and you have it. You can still spread it to someone who's not vaccinated. I mean, again, the vaccination isn't an Iron Dome shield. It's not going to protect you completely from the incoming missiles. What it's going to do is it's going to act more as a seatbelt. And these disingenuous arguments from people that, well, he got vaccinated and then he tested positive. Yes, but he's not on a ventilator. He's not going to need to go to the hospital. He's going to be fine. His system has been supercharged to the point where it no longer has to live in fear of this invasive species that is taking over. Let's see here. Let's see what else is happening here in the chat room. People like the seatbelt analogy. Oh, well, thank you. I really appreciate that because I'm just making stuff up and talking out of my butt. All right, so in the chat room now, my friend E is making jokes, making light of the whole vaccination situation. I don't care. I'm going to out him. He's vaccinated. He's vaccinated. All my friends are vaccinated. Stop preaching. Flasks are better than masks, my boy E says. Shut your vaccinated mouth. You're going to be able to fly wherever you want to fly. You're going to be able to take a train. How's that going to work? What's going to happen when the, not so much here in Dallas, Fort Worth area. I mean, we have the DART system, and boy, was I impressed by that. I'll probably talk about that at some point. But the last time I lived here, the train and commuter system in this town was definitely lacking. It certainly seems like it's better now. But what about in cities like New York, Chicago, cities that really depend on buses, trains, and all that stuff because a large portion of their population doesn't have their own vehicles? What happens when, if you take something like Chicago, what happens when the CTA decides that nobody can get on the bus without showing their vaccination passport? What happens then? I mean, I do not see a way to get out of this. I don't see a way to get out of this without some real terrible things happening. All right, let's go back. Let's see here. Oh, okay. So one of the things that I'd wanted to talk about was some of the stories that are trending locally, but we were obviously distracted a bit today, so I apologize for that. All right, so here are the things that are trending locally here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Some of them are fun. All right, affidavit says that Angela West's appearance on the night of her arrest was, quote, not crisp. Do you know who Angela West is? Angela West is the wife of Alan West, who is a guy running for governor. Is he running for, is governor or senator? I don't know. I stopped paying any attention to Alan West. Well, let's see. I never paid any attention to Alan West. But his wife here, they live here locally in Dallas. Apparently they live in one of the rich neighborhoods because this went all down in a rich neighborhood. Here's another rich guy trying to. His wife was at the Papa Do's there in. I think it was. Actually, I don't know where it was. I assume that it's the one off Northwest Highway. Maybe it's the one on the tollway. But she was pulled over after visiting Papa Do's with her grandson, and the police who pulled her over thought she was drunk, and then, they gave her the field sobriety and all that stuff. Well, Alan West has now made a video where he's showing the receipt from Papa Do's that says she only got a lemonade, and, he's holding up the receipt. She only had a lemonade. Well, that doesn't mean she didn't drink anything. That doesn't mean who was she with? Okay, Alan, I have questions. I understand that you are presenting that. Look, she only had lemonade in an attempt to what? Get only lemonade trending on, what are, I don't even know what are not, it won't trend on Twitter, but where do all those people hang out now? I have Grinder. I have no idea what the website is, but they're Parlor. Parlor, I believe, was one of them. So that's how this happens. He gives he's sitting there talking. I have questions, Alan. Okay, I see the receipt, and can you put it up to the camera? Because you didn't put the receipt up to the camera where we could actually see that it only says lemonade. You said she only had lemonade, and then you held up a white piece of paper claiming it was the receipt and started waving it. You didn't show that to us. We didn't see it. I mean, this is the duplicity of the era that we live in. People can manipulate folks with, no, I saw it. I saw he had a receipt for did you see the receipt? What, he had it in his hand. He said, this is the receipt. He said, look, she only had lemonade. When he said, look, did you look? Well, no, I couldn't see it. He was holding it too far away. Oh, okay. So he just said that. So come on, I have questions about this. And even if that receipt that he's holding up in the video, I was going to play the video, but we've got a bit of a sketchy stream going on here, so I don't want to tempt fate, especially since we're in the last 20 minutes or so of today's noon show. He's holding up the receipt, claiming that it says one thing, and we have no way of knowing whether or not that's true. The other thing about it is, even if the receipt is authentic, even if I am just, okay, so let me see the receipt. And he shows me the receipt, and the receipt says, yes, one lemonade. There you go. Are there any other receipts? What do you mean? This is the receipt. Well, I mean, they went to Papa Do's and all they had is a lemonade. That seems a little bit strange. Was this lemonade maybe purchased for the grandchild that was in the car with her at the end of the night? And now so I have questions. I want to see, before I believe you, I need to get somebody from Papa Do's to check in and go, yeah, that is the only receipt that we ran. Because it honestly means nothing, absolutely nothing, what he's doing, other than he's trying to manipulate a portion of his supporters into getting activist level crazy over this. The other thing is, was she with friends? Maybe they split the check. You go out with a group of friends and, somebody orders, pitchers for the table or a round of drinks and, it's on them. Just because you've got a receipt that says one thing doesn't mean that that's all you had at the restaurant. You are the wife of a fairly high profile guy, a provocative figure for sure, but you're his wife. You're his wife in an area where I bet you're pretty well known. I mean, I'm new to the area, so I don't really think of Alan West and Angela West as being two people who are, staples of the Dallas Park City's society scene. I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe you went there. Maybe the manager of the place is a fan of your husband. Maybe you know the manager of the place. Maybe he sent a round of drinks for the table. Maybe he sent 2 rounds of drinks for that stuff happens, especially when you're a high profile individual or somebody who's associated with a high profile individual. Alan West making a video where he stands in front, and here's the other thing. It was so disingenuous. It was just try hard, disgusting. He's standing in his living room or whatever it is there that he's got. I have no idea. He's positioned himself. I mean, he could have stood anywhere, but he decided to stand right in front of a big wall painting that says Patriot. He's got all these flags, and he always introduces himself. Hi, I'm Lieutenant Colonel Alan. You know what? you don't have to do that. You're not in uniform. You're actually arguing about whether or not your wife was drunk or not. And I think it's a bit disrespectful to try and leverage any integrity you have by calling up your past military past, which Alan West, thank you so much for your military service. Thank you so much to everybody who serves. But I mean, just don't. You're trying. Can you move a little bit away from the patriot? I'm a fucking patriot, Alan West. I love my country. Many of us love our country, but we don't feel the need to have to let everyone know I'm a patriot. Are you? I assume that all of my friends and all of my natural born American pals and even a number of my immigrant friends are all patriots. You don't need to try that hard, dude. Please. For a discerning individual like myself, when I am noticeably taken aback by your attempts to manipulate my impression of you, it's not going to go well. I want nothing to do with that garbage. Then in the video, he begins to go on and just destroy this Dallas police officer. And now I watched the police cam of the pullover. I watched what the cop was seeing and why the cop hit the lights and why she was pulled over and suspected of drunk driving. Because she was weaving, she was on the shoulder for a brief moment. Maybe she was come on, we've all done that, right? Hey, I've actually been pulled over on suspicion of drunk driving. And then the cop was like, oh man, he's like, no, okay. Because it was obvious that I wasn't drunk, that I was just, I don't know, maybe I dropped my phone under the, seat of the car and I was reaching for it. These things happened and they're completely explainable. But if that was the case, I just don't understand why Alan West, who is aligned for all intents and purposes with a group of people who back the blue and all of that, would then use this opportunity because of some personal trend, some personal thing that has affected him, to just destroy a rank and file Dallas police officer. He is calling for her badge. He is calling for protests. He is claiming that it's almost like see, the problem for him is that it was a black, or maybe this is good for him. Maybe it's good for his little pack of people that he runs with. The officer who pulled over his wife, Angela, was a black woman police officer. And now he's demanding that, she lose her job. And thankfully the chief, Dallas, he says, look, I'm not going to, he's backing his officer, at least right now. And there's also an issue with the breathalyzer. The breathalyzer was inconclusive, which, hey, that's a good one for Alan and Angela West's column. That's a good one. It was inconclusive. But as the police officer says, there was a problem with the breathalyzer. She wasn't doing it right. I don't know what it is, but there was an issue with the way she was performing the breathalyzer, so they had to take a blood test, and we're waiting on the results of the blood test. Now, I don't know why we're waiting on the results of a blood test. It seems to me that you could probably get that, especially in a high-profile case like this that is now trending in the United States as a story, that you could get that done in the lab in the afternoon. I would assume. I don't know. But again, I don't work in a lab. But this happened days ago. It seems like you could have maybe fast-tracked whether or not she had some booze in her alcohol or booze in her system. And he's just absolutely... So from seeing the police officer's perspective, she had every right in the world to pull her over. I've been pulled over for less. You've been pulled over for less. The cop wasn't targeting. And that's the other thing. He seems to be floating the balloon that this was targeted, that she was set up because she is the wife of him, which seems absolutely moronic. I mean, if the wife, they would go after you, Alan. It would be you that they would try and discredit. You could very easily have weathered this storm, even if she was drunk. You know what? You come out and you make a heartfelt, mea culpa about the whole situation. She definitely regrets it. We're sorry. We'd like to say thank you to the Dallas Police Department for doing their job. I mean, that's the classy way you do it, especially if you want to stay in the political arena. But now we are in an era where all bets are off as far as what we thought used to fly. Now we've got a guy who's running for office who thinks that it's in his campaign's best interest to now stand up and accuse police of being crooked, of being shady. He is certainly not back in the blue in this situation. You can't have it both ways, people. You either are on the side of the police officer or you're not. But you don't get to go back and forth just because a police officer roughed you up a little bit, just because a cop got under your skin because you did something wrong. This doesn't, being a high profile American, well known to be aligned with the back the blue crowd and all of that stuff, that doesn't give you immunization from prosecution for transgressions. You do something wrong, you're going to get arrested. And all right, I'm just going to read you this because I've been ranting. This story really bothers me. Angela West, 61, faces a charge of driving while intoxicated with a child under 15. She had a 3-month-old grandchild in the car with her. Before West was pulled over in the 10200 block of Shady Trail, that's right off Northwest Highway, the affidavit said an officer saw West drifting between the right lane and the shoulder of the road without a turn signal. West then told the officer that the reason she was driving this way was because she was listening to her GPS. The affidavit said West was also on the phone talking to an unknown person. Okay, I guess you're not supposed to be on your phone. You're not supposed to be fooling with things. Distracted driving is a real problem, but those are reasonable excuses. That makes perfect sense to me. So, we're not here convicting Angela West. We're just trying to get through this. What we are not doing before all the facts are out is demanding that the city of Dallas fire the police officer who pulled her over. The police officer couldn't possibly have known who this was. The police officer pulled somebody over and we saw the video. She was drifting. Any one of us would have been pulled over for this. Prior to being pulled over, West had eaten an order of Chilean sea bass with her attorney at PF. Oh, it's PF Chang's. I thought it was Papados, but it's PF Chang's. According to the affidavit, she also told police that she didn't drink any alcohol with dinner. She showed CBS 11 News her receipts. Okay, so CBS 11 News saw it from the North Dallas restaurant to prove she only drank lemonade before she was pulled over for driving erratically. Well, I'm not saying this is the case, and I'm not saying that, she had. And I do know people who are toddlers, older. Actually, I'm thinking of one older woman in particular. She is a church lady to a degree, not, certainly not the comical, cartoonish thing that we saw in Saturday Night Live. She's a church lady. She's a moral scoreboarder. She's she doesn't drink alcohol. But, I have been told, I haven't seen it, but I've been told that she has a flask at all times in her purse. And she will go to the bathroom with her, dare I say, lemonade, and she will fill it up and she's still. So, the problem is that her husband has been so disingenuous so far throughout this entire affair that she doesn't get the benefit of the doubt from me. I think your family has your close association with your husband makes it so that I'm just going to, before I convict you, or before I absolve you, I'm going to need a little bit of time here to put it all together. And that's what we're doing. West agreed to a standard field sobriety test, which she failed. Okay, so that's the walk the line, tip of your toes, all of that stuff. Failing that doesn't really mean anything to me because I'm not so good at that. I mean, have you ever tried to do those? Especially when you get older, this is a 61-year-old woman. Can she stand on one leg? Are these designed for? She doesn't look like she's a fitness freak. She looks like a 61-year-old grandma. She's got a little shape to her, and maybe it's difficult for her to be able to stand on one leg. So we're going to let that. That's why we have a number of steps that we go through before we decide to put somebody in handcuffs. Prior to being pulled over, West had eaten at the P.F. Chang's. It's a great P.F. Chang's, too, by the way, over there. North Park, P.F. Chang's. According to the affidavit, she also told police she didn't drink any alcohol with dinner. She showed CBS 11 News her receipt from the North Dallas restaurant to prove that she only drank lemonade before she was pulled over for driving erratically. Quoting now from Angela West, I pressed home and the navigator says, okay, move to the 2 right lanes. Okay. She's saying she was confused by navigation. Who hasn't been, Did the navigation tell you not to signal? Because that is certainly a red flag that's going to get a cop to check you out. And by the way, that's another thing that Alan West said. Alan West said she was initially pulled over for failing to use her turn signal. And he's trying to suggest that she was targeted. He's like, nobody gets pulled over for that. Hey, Alan, I got pulled over for that 5 months ago. I got pulled over for failing to improper lane change in Tinley Park, Illinois, for failing to. And I just paid it. You got to just pay it. So please don't put that. That's gaslighting. Don't put it out there that nobody gets pulled over for that. People get pulled over for that all the time. There are cops out there that like to pull people over. It's a power dynamic. Cops are not all great. Cops are not all perfect individuals. They like to be able to, having a bad day, you want to go fuck with somebody. It's unfortunately a reality of how some of these guys operate. Not all, some, So don't tell me that they don't pull you over for stuff like that, because, Alan, they absolutely do pull you over for failing to use lanes correctly and failing to signal. I pressed home and the navigator told me to move to the 2 right lanes. I saw the lights go off behind me and I'm like, oh boy, she said. I'm not used to getting tickets, said West. I'm not used to skirmishes. I did not know what to do. I panicked and I stopped. I just stopped. Sounds to me like you knew what to do. That's what you do. You see the lights go on behind you and you pull over and you put your hands on the wheel and you wait to be instructed on your neck. It's pretty specific, right? When your kid starts driving at 16 years old, don't you have a conversation with them about, and I know that this is a big thing in the Black community where it's maybe a little bit different. You got to prepare young Black men for, certain officers. Again, not all. My mom just retired from the Illinois State Police after 20 years. So don't try and pin on me that I'm anti-cop. I am absolutely not anti-cop. But just as in every profession, there's assholes everywhere. There's assholes in every profession. Bad people get to do whatever the hell they want, just like good people get to do whatever the hell they want. They don't, so please. The officer, let's see here. West, I'm sorry, I actually lost my place here. That's my bad. West agreed to the standard sobriety test, which she failed. West said she believes she passed it despite a health issue. She says, I have had an aneurysm, so I'm a little off balance sometimes. I walked back and forth. I spoke to her. I told her I had Chilean sea bass. I wasn't slurring my words. That's good in her defense. If she was able to properly articulate that she had Chilean sea bass without going Chilean sea bass, that's that's a difficult one. She maybe, yeah. So maybe she was sober. I don't think you offer that up and do it correct. The officer's notes. Did she think that she said it strangely? Because this is, again, Angela West's description that she wasn't slurring words. The affidavit that West lifted her arms up shoulder level and held them throughout the test. It also said that during the one leg stand portion of the test, while wearing sandals, she dropped her foot down multiple times and switched feet. During the walk and turn test, she missed heel to toe and took the incorrect number of steps, the affidavit said. The affidavit said West also did not breathe properly into the breathalyzer, so officers couldn't get an accurate reading. Now, this is get a little bit, use all of that stuff. She's a 61-year-old woman, and if she has a legit history of medical issues, which she's a 61-year-old woman, you can forgive her for not being able to do the standard roadside sobriety gymnastics, right? You can understand that. But I don't understand she was unable The affidavit said West also did not breathe properly into the breathalyzer device. I need more questions on that. Additionally, the officer requested that West provide a specimen for alcohol analysis. The affidavit said that she starts screaming about her freedoms and, get a judge out here and you can't seize my blood. And I guess it didn't go there. I guess when push comes to shove and it affects people like that, they actually toe the line, which is good, which is what we want. She consented to the blood draw, according to an affidavit, and the officer and West went to Parkland Hospital and waited. But when the nurse came to take her blood, West changed her mind and wanted to talk to her lawyer. Okay. See, this is why we read the details. Here I thought we were sitting around waiting for a blood test, and apparently when it came to the moment to actually get the blood and prove conclusively, that's when she lawyered up. Which, again, we live in such a sketchy world, I can't say that that's the wrong thing to do. Maybe it's best to just lawyer up at all times and just let the chips fall where they may, because you don't want to accidentally do something that gets you into a bit of trouble that you really didn't deserve to be in. West changed her mind and wanted to talk to her lawyer. The officer had to obtain an affidavit for a search warrant signed by a Dallas County judge, and West's blood was drawn. Okay, there we go. And it was drawn at 12:15 a.m. Saturday. She was arraigned in Dallas County Jail on Saturday morning and released later that afternoon. So did they get the results of the blood? They went forward with the booking. West said she was stunned when she was placed in handcuffs. It's always, I was stunned. We watch people get put in handcuffs all the time when it's not us. But then when it happens to us, I was stunned. I don't get put in handcuffs. There's so many people out there. I actually love that. That was one of my favorite things in cops, when somebody who is not necessarily an incorrigible criminal gets themselves in trouble and they get put in handcuffs and they start screaming about how this doesn't happen to me. I'm not a criminal. Well, you're in handcuffs, and the cop right now, he's determined that you are in fact a criminal. So let's just move forward with it. It prompted Dallas Police Chief Eddie Garcia to defend his officers and release video to show everything was by the book. Yeah, that was the video that I saw today. She could have taken the child to CPS, but she chose not to. I'm talking about the officer. This is Chief Eddie Garcia. She could have taken the child to CPS and she chose not to. She could have towed the vehicle and she chose not to. See, that's the thing. That's when a normal person gets, and I imagine the Wests in the area that they live in, they don't really worry about an additional tow charge. But boy, you get thrown in the clink for a DUI and then you spend 12 hours in there and you're feeling just absolutely awful. And then you learn that you got to drive down to the pound and pay an additional couple $100 to get your car. Oh my God. So the fact that the cop didn't make the car get towed, that's kind of cool. I mean, she could have, he's right. She could have done all these things. She was with an infant. She could have taken that kid to CPS. She could have had the car towed. She decided not to do any of these. Chief Garcia goes on to say, I saw a courteous officer, regardless of what the lab results show. Okay, so I guess they're not back yet. Regardless of what the lab results show, I believe that she believes that there was probable cause to think that something was impacting her driving. Chief Garcia said the blood test should confirm whether or not West was driving while intoxicated. West showed CBS 11 News a lab test conducted Monday that she said can detect drugs and alcohol up to 80 hours earlier, and which came back negative. Okay. But again, we don't use your doctors and your labs and the state has this apparatus set up. We'd love to take you seem like a lovely woman. Aside from all of this, you seem like a lovely woman, a grandmother. But we just can't take your word for it on this. I'm sorry. But you get ahead of the story. You get your own test results while waiting for the actual official test results, and you get your results out there. You get ahead of the story. And sure, the walls are going to cave in should the actual official results come out and contradict what you've now offered. But there's going to be a good portion of people that are never going to see that second report. They're just going to go with the first report, and that's going to become their fact. That's going to become what they start posting about and ranting about, and just something else that makes them nuts and makes them think that everything is... It's all a manipulation, people. We just need to be a little bit better. But once again, I guess the big deal here with the story, and you'll probably be seeing it because I've already seen it on one of the news channels as I was skimming around earlier today. Helen West, I mean, I would think that, Texas is one of those states that is pretty pro cop, right? I mean, for the most part, I mean, look, aren't we all, I know we're not all, obviously we're not all pro cop, but again, I'm not talking about the fringes. I'm not talking about the extremes. I'm talking about the people in the middle who understand that nobody is all one thing. People are complicated. Black, white, no, we're all gray. There's a nuance to humanity that we just simply do not consider anymore. But that's the story. That's what really upset me. Okay, so we're going to wait and we're going to find out. And if she's exonerated, that's wonderful. But it certainly was not appropriate for her husband to go out and start demanding that this officer who makes, a workman's wage, a black female police officer, maybe that's it. Maybe she is, I've seen these advertisements, promotional things, the face of new police. And it's almost always like a group of police officers who are very diverse. There's women, there are Latinos, there, Asians are represented. There's white men. There's usually like one white guy. There's like one white guy and you got to make room for everybody else. But the face of the new police. It sounds to me like this black female Dallas police officer is the face of new police. And now here's Alan West not liking that. I get upset. I get upset when anybody goes after a cop. I've seen some terrible stuff. We've all seen some terrible stuff. We all know. You know what I'm getting at. We know. But when people start to just attack cops for just being cops, like cops are dicks. Yeah, they are. Cops are dicks. That's their job. Their job is to make sure that you stay in line. Their job isn't to harass us. Their job is to just serve and protect, I suppose. But their job is to make sure that when every one of us and every one of us from time to time have done something a little bit wacky and over the line, their job is to protect the rest of society from our shortcomings. They're not all perfect. And I watched the video, and if you have a chance to watch the video released by Dallas Police, you'll see a young Dallas police officer who is just working on a Saturday night. She's not being combative. She's not being rude. So let's hope that nothing happens with her. And if Angela West, her blood comes back clean, wonderful. Thank God. I'm glad that somebody wasn't out there drunk driving. But the video that I saw, the cop had every right to assume that something was going on and investigate. So, all right, that's where we are. We had a little bit of technical problems here early in the show, but boy, oh boy, my guy, Ed Silla at Radio Misfits, he sure as hell got that fixed and up and running. So I appreciate you joining me. Let me do, I like to do this at the end. Let me do one quick refresh so that I can see if there's anything new that's trending that just popped up. We started with the Charlie Watts news. Jerry Jones is now trending number 2. So I suppose I should mention this. Let's see what this is about, okay? Trending number 2 in the United States, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones on why he's so adamant about COVID-19 vaccine. Oh, look at this. Everyone has a right to make their own decisions regarding their health and their body until your decision. Oh, okay. Wait a second. Am I about to like something Jerry Jones says for the first time? Jerry Jones on why he's so adamant about COVID-19 vaccine. Everyone has a right to make their own decisions regarding their health and their body, ... until your decisions as to yourself impacts negatively many others. We have got to check I at the door and go forward with we. Is Jerry Jones a cool? I mean, look, I know we dislike him for a lot of the things. He's certainly an arrogant guy, a bit of a narcissist, and we've all had questions about the way he has run the Cowboys throughout the years. But if you're having a steak dinner with Jerry Jones and maybe a couple of brown sauces, is he a cool guy? I mean, because this sounds to me like a guy who's pretty cool, a guy who gets it, a guy who understands. Everyone has, and then the whole release is here. So I'm sure that there's going to be a large portion of people who just have now another reason to completely hate on Jerry Jones. But me, that's I like that. Let's see, anything else happening here? Oh, God. Okay. And on that one, Busta Rhymes is ending because apparently he's speaking out against wearing masks. Can't win, folks. We'll be back at 10 o'clock tonight. We're going to do a little bit, the 10 o'clock show is always going to be a little different. The noon show is just about topics and things that people are talking about and what's going on around the world. 10 o'clock show is a little bit lighter. Please feel free to follow us. Not feel free. Please feel compelled to follow us at any of those that you see there, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, the web. And if you are having trouble finding us on YouTube, if that's your preferred platform where you like to watch these things, look, I'm apparently not second fiddle. I'm like 15,000th fiddle in the YouTube searches for things that begin with pugs. There are a lot of pug dogs who have YouTube shows, and apparently they draw more than I do. So I am still way down there. So what we've done here, my guy Ed, where you see it says web, if you go to pugscast.com, simple fix. You can just, click bookmark it. Pugscast.com. That's going to take you directly to the YouTube page, my YouTube page, our YouTube page, what we're trying to create here. And that's sort of the whole thing. So go there, check that out if you're having difficulty. And we'll see you again at 10 o'clock tonight. I'm not entirely sure what we're going to be talking about at 10 o'clock tonight, but if you follow me on Facebook and Twitter, I'll be giving you some hints, and I'll probably be leaning into you to help me out with some of the things that we're going to be talking about. I really appreciate you sticking with me here on this Tuesday afternoon where we had a couple of bumps, but we'll make it through, a work in progress. Remember, regarding Charlie Watts, we got a choice here. We got just what a cool guy, right? We got a choice. Let's not be sad. Let's go listen to some Stones music. Let's go just celebrate the life of the gentleman rock star, Charlie Watts, dead at 80 years old today. Bye, everybody. We'll see you at 10 o'clock, I hope.